10 years ago, Kings Island debuted 3 new attractions to the Planet Snoopy area of the park. Some would say that they weren't significant, but to many they were, because it's not about the story, it's about the story you tell. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are, and that's who we care about.
Let's kick this off by thanking our Prestige members. I really want to thank Aaron Bort, 330T, Logan Lipper, Brian Hauser, Lil Mac 21, Miss Mandy 1983, Jacob Fick, Stephen Hornack, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Damon Barnes, Dustin Jackson, and Songstress Miku. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and hey, some tiers even get some free stuff.
So Ryan, 2015 was a year for Kings Island where, coming off the year before, the debut of Banshee, very successful, debut season for that. But it was about the families, especially those with young guests. In 2015, we had Woodstock Gliders, which is now Franklin's Flyers, that replaced a 10-year void that had been there since the Flying Eagles were pulled out at the end of the 2024 season and relocated to Carowinds. Similar model, to what the Flying Eagles were, but the new ones, manufactured by Larson Rides out of Plainview, Texas. It did, fill a void that had been there, and just a great ride, perfect fit for Planet Snoopy. And then you also had the Snoopy Space Buggies, which was a fun ride for youngsters, and also the parents can ride with them. That was a popular addition. And let's not forget, you also had Snoopy's Petting Farm. Over 50 animals were in there, and that drew a lot of attention that year as well. So, not the biggest thrills that season in Kings Island's history, but rides that really helped elevate the kids area, helped it continue to win its golden tickets for the next couple of years, and just really, kind of bolstered the Planet Snoopy in the kids area.
Yeah, so let's start by talking about Woodstock's Gliders, which are now known as Franklin's Flyers. And I want to pull up the photo again because I really do enjoy this paint job. I think it looks so cool. It looks like, and know what it makes me think of? Dolly's coat of many colors, how they sell this stuff with the patchwork on it. That's what it makes me think of. I love this paint job.
I like the paint job. I love that Franklin got a ride named after him, and it's it's a guest favorite. Now you can't do it doesn't do the things that the original Flying Eagles did. It doesn't have the snapping that you could do. It's a little smaller. It has 2 less tubs. So it's not as wide that you're flying out, and the ride cycle time is a little bit less, so you can't really get going like you used to be able to do, but still a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's made by Larson International out of Plainview, which replaced the model which was sent to Carowinds 10 years previous, old Bish Rocco model, which should make it back here, I hope, someday.
Still the best of all of those, the Flying Scooters rides that I've been on, and I've been on a lot of them, and, nothing like it. And I really miss Flying Eagles. This one, like I said, it fills a void, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah. So let me ask the listeners, because there is a generational gap here. Did you ride the old Flying Eagles? And if you did, which model do you prefer, the Flying Eagles or Franklin's Flyers? These are a little bit more luxurious. The old ones were a little more rat-a-tat-tat because they were, 60 years old when they moved, so they're like 80 now. Which one do you prefer? Now, let's move on to Snoopy Space Buggies. Not a whole lot to say about this, except one thing that people bring up quite a bit is that you have to be 44 inches tall to ride, or 36 inches tall and accompanied with a supervising companion. But if you're an adult, you can't ride without a kid. So I kind of understand the policy. Essentially, the weight limit of the tub is for one adult, or an adult with a really, really small kid. It's Don, can you speak to this a little bit since you were at the park?
I
Like,
think,
because there's a couple
you don't
rides with this
want,
policy.
I mean, you've got young kids, you don't want them waiting in line longer than they have to because, all the adults are wanting to ride it, so I
Yeah.
think that plays into it. But, just, it's a really fun ride. I was a first rider on it when it was, ready to go. I remember, sitting in it and taking a couple of spins on it. And I thought, this is going to be a lot of fun, for the kids. And, I thought if my daughter was only, 10 years younger now, she would absolutely love this. Wouldn't be able to get enough of it. But by Zamperla, so it's a go-go bounce ride. And
Mm.
I thought this was, the perfect ride when you're thinking kids area at an amusement or theme park. This is the kind of ride that you think about.
Yeah. Now I looked up the height requirement. So you got to be 36 inches or accompanied by a supervising companion, but it does clarify handheld infants are not permitted. So I think the
I
definition,
can see that, why that wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, I think it'd be a little weird, but handheld, the child basically has to be able to sit up on their own and maintain their posture in the seat in order to ride. So they have to be with a companion. Any guest over 60 inches tall must be accompanied by a child. So that's the policy that I was referring to. Now, Snoopy's Barnyard Petting Zoo, that came at the same time. That was by Honey Hill Farm.
Yeah.
That I really enjoyed that. They also used it for Songs of the Nativity. So it kind of set that manger scene and stuff with the religious songs. Can you talk about the decision to bring in a petting zoo? Like, where did that come from?
Cedar Point had a petting zoo, and it was pretty popular, especially with the younger guest. And for the early days of the kids' Halloween event, which was originally held out in the Picnic Grove, and then it moved out into Soak City. At that time in the fall, the park formed a partnership, a working relationship with Honey Hill Farm, great people, and they would bring the animals out, and guests would tell us that they wish this was something that the park had year round. So the venue was there in the back of Planet Snoopy to be able to do it, have a place for the animals, and it had everything. I mean, it had the chickens, the ducks, rabbits, sheep, goats, alpacas, miniature horses, steers, pot-bellied pigs, more. I mean, you name it. I mean, it was it was a very popular attraction.
So I was trying to find information on this, and I can't recall. Did it close with COVID and then it never reopened? Do you remember the year that it closed?
It didn't come back after COVID. No, it was not back. But it, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was something the media, had fun doing stories on, and sharing that with their audiences, that there were more than rides and shows at Kings Island, that guests could also learn about these animals. So there was an educational component to it as well.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I do remember you subtly bragging about is that nobody thought that anyone was going to care from the news media.
No, this was something that, coming off Banshee, and that got, international, worldwide, type news coverage, a lot of media placements around the country, during the construction phase and when it opened, and, throughout the year as different things would, happen with ridership milestones, and that, it kept getting the hits. It also had, Good Morning America came out, when it first opened. So you have all that awareness out there, and then you go into the next year and you see it's 2 kids rides and a petting farm, and the analytics and everything, everybody kept track of everything, how many hits and everything we got with the media. And there was concern that, how are we going to create the awareness we had last year with Banshee? This isn't a Banshee. How are we going to do that? And I was confident. I said, look, I'll be able to package that story, and, we'll be in the same places, that we were with Banshee. We won't have Good Morning America come out, but everything else, in terms of the number of print stories, the online stories, the TV news stories, we're going to be able to leverage these rides. We're going to be able to look at what now is Franklin's Flyers. We're going to be able to look at that ride, and we're going to be able to say that we're bringing back a ride that was really popular and that our guests missed. We're going to be able to leverage that part of it. The Golden Ticket Award, that we had been winning, that we were going to be able to say that we weren't resting on our laurels. We're continuing to improve the kids area, all those different things. And they were like, okay, if you think you can do that, we're banking on it. And, I delivered for them. We were in the same places. There was, I remember there was a guy that was overseeing the Fun TV, the Fun House. They're making all the different videos and stuff in the park, that they were somewhere, and, they saw like Google alerts coming in, and it was from like New York Times and Boston Globe and Houston Chronicle, same place that the Banshee was in, saying Kings Island, opens 43rd anniversary season on, I use that odd word, I didn't just do it on the even, the zeros and the fives. I would always say it's the 44th anniversary or the 43rd anniversary. It was a little different. It would catch news media's attention, would sound important, that Kings Island adds 2 new kids rides for 43rd anniversary season. And, Associated Press picked it up, and the stories were everywhere. So right off the bat, we're not even to May 1st yet. The park just opened its gates, and, I've already got the same hits out there that I had for Banshee the year before. Smaller ride, but, when you're, trying to package things together, as a PR person, it's a storyteller, rather than being a messenger. I was a storyteller, and I, put it together why this mattered. And Associated Press ran with it, and it got that coverage everywhere. And local media came out and did their morning hits just like they did for Banshee. Especially media that had young kids. We invited them out to bring their kids out and try it and stuff. So everything about it, worked the same, to the same degree that it did with Banshee, outside of having Good Morning America come out.
Yeah, I always saw that, and this is always deduced from things like you and Mefford and people like that taught me. But I always saw like this kind of new age form of PR, and I'm not talking about like through social media, but like the storytelling aspect. That there was like 3 facets to it. One was the ability to identify the story. 2 is the ability to tell the story, and 3 is the ability to communicate the story. And by communicate, I mean being able to do the mechanics of sending out to the channels, like knowing the facets. Being able to find the story is not, hey, we opened this ride. It's, hey, we're bringing back a ride after 10 years, so because of so much demand, and being able to find the story. And then obviously not everybody is a storyteller, but you have to make it interesting. So bringing back a ride after 10 years is not particularly interesting, but bringing back a ride after 10 years and people have longed for it, and it was a Cincinnati tradition, and people have asked so many times, and we're finally doing it. That's a story,
Yeah, and also not resting on your laurels with, winning those Golden Ticket Awards, that you were continually trying to make the kids area better was, also part of those pitches. And you mentioned Bill Mefford. I think he's as fine a PR person as there's ever been, in the last 50 years. Ruth Voss was another person, that was a big storyteller as a PR person. They were not messengers, they were storytellers. And I learned so much from them that I think if I had not been around those two, for the decade that I was in the 1980s, that, and, forming how, learning how to do PR from them, I think I'm not having the success that I've had in my career doing, PR. And that includes, the years I worked in professional hockey, and that it works the same, whether you're doing, sports or theme parks, or you're working for a brand, like Coca-Cola or whatever. It all works the same. It's all about the storytelling and that. Bill, I mean, recently went to lunch with him. I mean, just an integral part of, the success that I've had doesn't happen if I don't cross paths with Bill Mefford and watch what he did, why they did it, how they connected with the media with their pitches and stuff. And seeing how they formatted things when they were pitching it out to the media. You know, it wasn't necessarily a press release all the time. It was, just kind of telling a story. Like, hey guys, we got this going on. Here's the visual for you. Here's the opportunity to come out and talk about it. You got young kids, or your kids are going to love this ride. Come out and try it. Well, now the media is interested because you just invited them as not media people, but as people to bring their family to experience these new things at the park. And there's all those different things. So yeah, very thankful that I got to know Ruth Voss and Bill Mefford.
I don't know if I ever told you this or not, but Mefford gave me, I don't know what sparked this, but he gave me like the best like life advice ever. And this pertains to PR. It pertains to life. I don't care what you are, but this is so profound. And and again, I don't know what sparked it, but he said, he told me successful people are always spending their time trying to find ways to be successful. Unsuccessful people are spending their time trying to find reasons why they weren't successful.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. So basically it's, you can spend your time either thinking about why this went wrong, blaming people, making excuses for the future, like, oh, this wouldn't be a good story, stuff like that. Or it's kind of like, here's the situation. What can I do to make it successful? And that's the difference in attitude.
Yeah. And I learned, from like both Bill and Ruth, but, I remember Ruth sitting down with me when I said I was interested in a PR career, because I didn't know how broadcasting was going to go. That's what I wanted to be, was a sports broadcaster. And she said, well, let me give you a little bit of advice. She came from a media background. She was a writer for the Cincinnati Enquirer. And she said, if you're going to do what I'm doing, work for a theme park or something, you don't have to be the best writer. You don't have to be the most creative person with these out of the box ideas. What you have to do and what you have to understand is your job is to make sure everyone else has what they need so they can do their job.
I remember you giving me that advice as well.
That stuck with me, and it worked, and it's still paying dividends to this day, with that. But, she also, taught me that there's a story opportunity that you can find every single day out in the park. It's out there, go find it, that kind of thing. And I had the freedom to do that, from, 2007, the years I was doing PR, 2007 to 2017. So it wasn't always the messaging stories, hey, it's opening day. Hey, it's now Soak City, we're open daily. Come experience Soak City. Oh, 4th of July, we got fireworks. Then you get to August, daily operations winding down, last chance, last splash of summer. Oh, here's our new announcement for the next year. It wasn't just following a script like that. I was able to go out and, hey, let's find out how many sets of twins work in the park. Hey, let's find out how many, there's like families, the father works here, the son works here, the brother works here, the grandfather used to work here, those kind of stories. There's all kinds of things, just behind the scenes stuff that we were able to find and turn those into news stories, because it's interesting, to show the behind the scenes looks, the first looks, leveraging a Jeff Gramke, one of the designers of the Beast, and letting him tell the story of how that came to be, what was interesting. The media loved that. And that was a story that got repeated several years in a row, because it was always interesting to somebody else in the media who hadn't heard that story before. So there was a lot of things like that. And the carousel, you talk about its days at Coney Island, and they had the flood in 1937, and the horses broke off, and pieces of them, were found as far away as Memphis, Tennessee. You tie that kind of stuff into the history of the carousel, and it becomes a pretty good story for everybody.
Yeah. Very cool.
And as usual, we got off the beaten path, but
hey, we talked for almost 20 minutes about 3 kids attractions.
It's what we do.
Let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell.
All right, Buy or Sell. The 2025 season will mark the 40th anniversary for Whitewater Canyon. It will also mark the last year for the ride, which will be retired without notice in November. Are you buying or selling, Ryan?
I'm selling. I haven't heard anything about Whitewater Canyon being removed. That's my only basis. Everything else checks out, but I haven't heard that. What about you?
I think what we have here is, from this submission is sometimes people, because of what's happening around the chain and that, they throw something against the wall and hope it sticks. I'm going to say I'm going to sell. I don't think that the ride's done after this year. I think it's still got a few more years left in it. It's popular.
If it was more valuable land, because some of the, like the one in Kentucky Kingdom takes up a plot of land. They can do something else there, but ours kind of like wraps around Mystic and around the train and stuff.
Around
They're
the
not
train,
going
yeah. You're not putting a new ride in that spot if you get rid of it. So, but I mean, it's still a fun ride for guests, and I think as long as it's not doesn't encounter a lot of issues, where you've got to start replacing the boats and that, I think it'll be around for a while.
Yeah. Cool. Let's move on to some Six Flags headline news.
Well, with spring on the horizon and warmer weather already in the forecast, it's amusement park season. So if you're planning a trip to Six Flags over Texas this year, you'll have a wider variety of food options to choose from. The Arlington theme park announced it's hired its first ever executive chef, Dewey Ladema. And according to the park, Chef Ladema is a French-trained chef who has worked at a Michelin star restaurant, NATO headquarters, and with the Dutch royal family across a more than 25-year career. So it looks like they've got themselves a really good one, and just another Six Flags park here that you're seeing elevate the culinary experience. We touched on this a couple of episodes ago about Six Flags Over Georgia had hired an executive chef, and today I learned that Six Flags New England has hired an executive chef. So it's really good to see, at Cedar Fair, the legacy parks there had really elevated that experience, the dining experience. They were all hiring executive chefs. That this is now being rolled out to those legacy Six Flags parks, and that they do still see the dining experience to be, very important. And based on this guy's background, I mean, it makes you want to make a trip to Six Flags Over Texas if you're a foodie.
I like how he's an executive chef for a theme park, and he's also got a security clearance because he's worked for NATO headquarters.
Very talented individual, obviously, and it's going to be great for the Six Flags Over Texas fans. And I'm looking forward to. I have a number of friends that live in that Arlington area that frequent that park. I'm looking forward to hearing what they think. Six Flags Over Texas food previous years to what they're experiencing this year.
Yeah, cool. Let's move on to the listener questions. Right, first listener question. Alexander from Whereabouts Unknown. He said, while there's uncertainty around the Six Flags merger, which is justified, while there's a lack of communication, promotion, or transparency from management, which should be addressed, and while there's still no replacement for the Vortex plot, which I hope is a B&M dive coaster, there's one big positive. If you're like me and thousands of others who make the drive on I-71 North, take exit 24, and the site comes into view, you don't get goosebumps. You also don't get eagle bumps. What you see in this view, as you're about to start another awesome trip to Kings Island, you get beast bumps. Ryan or Don, do either of you get beast bumps?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Since 1979, I mean, there's it's a one of a kind. The only way you can experience a ride like the Beast is to go to Kings Island because no other roller coaster out there is like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's not just talking about the Beast. I think he's talking about, like, do you still get that feeling as you drive up? And I really do. Yeah. And I mean, I live about 45 minutes south of the park, but I spend a lot of my time up in that area. Mm-hmm. So I drive by the park twice a week or so, and it's still like, thank God I've got like corrective cruise control because I'm like looking at.
You're still excited about it. Yeah, I mean, every time you get off that exit and you're getting ready to pull into the parking lot, I mean, there's a lot of excitement there. It still feels every time I walk through the front gate. It still feels exciting, and that you're stepping into like another world, and it's magical, and that's never left for me, is that feeling that it's a magical place, and you get excited about it.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have Jim from Cincinnati. And he says, could you please provide an estimate or a guess as to which ride at Kings Island has the highest incident of protein spills? Okay, so the highest incidence of protein spills. He says, additionally, have either of you experienced a protein spill on a ride? Thank you for taking the time to answer my question. Always enjoy listening to the show, starting my workday from home. We have a lot of people that seem to be listening to Tower Topics while they're supposed to be working.
Yeah, somebody said they appreciate that we upload at 5 a.m. because they start at 5 a.m. And it's like, well, I could do it at 4 if you want to have it on your drive. It doesn't matter to me.
Exactly.
That's just the time I pick.
Exactly. But, great to hear that people, enjoy listening to the show while they start their workday, with us. But Ryan, which rides would you think?
Something that spins, maybe Delirium. What do you think? I don't know. Nothing comes to mind that's like I see it a lot at.
I mean, there's Banshee, there's a Scrambler. I mean, so it's definitely the spin rides. They call them the spin and pukes. With the Scrambler and
Whirl and Hurl.
Yeah, those kind of rides. Banshee though, because of the inversions and things, and oftentimes people ride it early in the morning, right after they've had a big breakfast, or they've just had lunch. Maybe they're at the Chicken Shack or something, or they've just had Skyline chili and then they go ride it. So that's going to bring that up, depending on how well you digest your food and that. But anything that spins, it's going to be one of those kind of rides. Have you ever been on a ride where you've either yourself, Ryan, or you've seen anyone else do it?
Well, to Claire, I don't know if you know this about me, Don, but I don't throw up. I haven't thrown up since 2006. I'm going to knock on wood. I think that there's something different about me because if you guys are members, you know that I opened up my results from when I was sick a few weeks ago and I had the flu. We learned that together as a family. But I took Tamiflu, and one of the things that they warned you about is it could cause nausea or vomiting if you take it on an empty stomach. So I'm an idiot. So for the very last dose, I forgot to eat and I took it. And I was literally, I had my head in this trash can right here. I had my head in this trash can. Go,
yeah.
And like, I did not throw up. What was funny was I didn't feel like I was sick either. I was working from home that day. And I would just every once in a while, I'd grab the trash can, just dry heave super loud.
Really?
And then set it down. And then I go right back to work like nothing. But as far as like experiences on rides themselves, two come to mind. One is very early in Banshee's day. By the way, I'm totally grossed out by vomit. So this is going to make me nauseous to think about. But I remember seeing a train pull into like the brakes before the station. I think this is the ready brakes or whatever, the holding brakes. I'm not really sure. And this dude in like the second or third row just turns over and just quick vomit. And then they pull into the station. He gets off the ride and keeps going. And so that was gross. Another time, and mute this for the next 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this, but riding Mystic Timber, somebody in the front row threw up. My whole party, I got spared, but almost my whole party got covered in vomit. I'd never seen people throw up on a ride. It's always after a ride. But this was like Problem Child 2, if you've seen that movie. I had a friend that had it in his beard and stuff. It was disgusting. But why did you bring that memory up?
For me, I had it happen on the first ride of the season for the Racer in 1983. The person I was riding with it just came flying back and just smacked them in the face, got in their beard, everything. I mean, it was on the way back, so it was after the turnaround. So it was the final hills coming back in. And I remember that Chuck Gugliotta was the individual I was riding the Racer with. So that's as close as I've come to, being hit or seeing, someone do it on the ride. I've seen it after they've gotten off the ride. They walk down the exit ramp or something like that. I've seen that happen. But in terms of being on the ride, just the one time there.
Yeah, with the exception of the Mystic Timbers thing I cited, I've never seen anybody throw up beyond the break. I saw it happen at in line for either the Legend or the Raven. I think it was the Legend at Holiday World. Somebody got to where they stop them right before they get in the station, and then they puked like on the the walkway, and it was like running under it was disgusting. But I've never seen somebody throw up on a ride except for that. I guess because you're on a ride for such a short amount of time. But hey, thanks for that question.
Yeah, that was a brilliant one.
Okay.
Yeah, it invokes those kind of visions that you don't like to think about.
Yeah, I guess what I'm making the thumbnail for this episode. Anyway, next question. Tim from Millville, Ohio. He said, "My question's for Don. I noticed on his Twitter profile he notes Summit Elementary class in 1974. So Don, would you say you had the most successful career of the class in 1974 from Summit Elementary School?"
Most successful? I would say no. I'm sure there's others that went on to do great things, became doctors, lawyers, or firefighters, police officers. Had more success, maybe more meaningful type careers than I've had. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But as far as from that class of 1974, I can say without hesitation, nobody has had more fun in their career than I've had. I've had the most fun. I mean, just every place that I've been, in my career, it's just been a blast, been a great time. So much fun. So many memories, and so I wouldn't trade, the career that I've had, with the memories and that and what it's all meant to me, with anything. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more, things I could have done. I could have went into different places that, maybe there would have been a little bit more, money or, something like that. But from Summit Elementary, 1974, nobody's had more fun than me.
Yeah. And comparing it to my elementary school, I'm probably not the most successful, but I am the only one that has a podcast with Don Helbig. So there's that. I get to talk about my family reunion or my class reunion.
I tell you what, you go back to Summit Elementary and any of my teachers that would have, if they're still alive, I don't know. I mean, it's been so long ago, but, and a lot of the students, whether it was, you go on to middle school or high school, I think there's a lot of them that, would be shocked that I'm doing a podcast. They would have been shocked that I did hockey broadcast because, I was shy, introverted, and that throughout my school, years. I really didn't say too much, unless, the teacher spoke to me. I didn't say much at all or anything like that. So I was very quiet, shy. So anybody that knew me back then, whether it was Summit Elementary, Anderson High School, Anderson Middle School, they would be surprised that I became someone that wasn't afraid to talk in front of people.
Yeah. And if you're from Summit Elementary or really any elementary, and if you have a Tower Topics question, where do we send it?
Now I'm thinking about Summit Elementary School, and I haven't been back through that school since then. But now the visions, I can remember the school, it had like the split level, the doors you would go through where the buses parked. That just rekindled a lot of memories from that question.
It sure did. So you can think about Summit Elementary and vomit because of this episode. Congratulations, Don. Where do they send the listener questions?
Well, if you got a listener question, send them to us in two different ways. Go to our X, which is Tower_Topics. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. And you can just send us a direct message with your question, or you can go to email, which is donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com. And in the subject line, just put question for TT. And either avenue that you do, make sure that you give us your first name and where you're from, your city and your state, because we like to share with our audience, where our listeners are. And, we'll get your question read at some point in time on an upcoming episode of Tower Topics.
Absolutely. And speaking of a lifelong commitment to Tower Topics, we do have t-shirts available. They're $22. They come in a wicked green, and that includes shipping, by the way. So if you're interested, hit Don up, not me, Don. Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. Just tell him that you're interested, send in your shipping address and your t-shirt size, and he'll send you a QR code. You scan that QR code, make him a Venmo payment, transaction goes through, you'll have your t-shirt in just a couple days. That's right. $22 including shipping. But cool. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.